and welcome back to our side scroller tutorial. In this tutorial, we'll look at how to create platforms and add some backgrounds into your game to make them interesting. Let's get started. So the first thing that I'd like to do is to get us organized. So down in your project window under assets, you'll notice that at the start you probably just have one folder for your scenes. It's time to create a new one, and we're going to call this one sprites. Well, at the start of the game, when we don't have that many assets, it's easy to keep things straight. It's definitely helpful to have folders as your games get more complex. Now, you're going to need a few of your own assets in order to make this work. I've pre-created a few of mine. I've got a brick tile, a grass tile, as well as some houses I created in Photoshop. I'm just going to grab those and drag them down into my Sprite folder. Once you've imported those into Unity, you just need to make a couple of little tweaks and you'll be ready to go. So first of all, on my brick tile, I have created a tile that is 16 pixels wide and 16 tall. So in my pixels per unit, I want to change that to 16. At this point, I'm going to want to change my filter mode to point no filter. All that's going to do is keep it a nice crisp graphic so that there's no blurring. And occasionally there is some strange discoloration that happens when importing your own graphics. Under format, if you switch it to RGBA 32-bit, you'll be all good. You can now click apply and your graphic is ready to go. You'll want to do the same thing for your other graphics as well. To save you time when you're doing this, you can actually click on your first graphic, hold shift, and then click on your other assets to do them all at the same time. Once your graphics are ready to go, you can drag them into your game. I'm going to start with my brick tile and drag that up here into my hierarchy. You'll notice it now appears in the screen, and by using my move tool, I can put it wherever I want it to go. Now, a really painful way to build this game would be to duplicate this and keep adding it. So I could hit Command D to create multiple bricks, and then painfully slide each one into place exactly where I want it. While this would work, it would take a really long time and be hard to get just right, as you'll notice that it's really easy to make just minor errors when sliding these across so that they don't quite overlap just right. Let's not do that. A much easier way to do this is to use some built-in features in the game. So first of all, when I click on my brick, if I go into my sprite renderer, I can change the draw mode from simple to tiled, which essentially makes this a tile, just like it sounds. I can now grab my rect tool, and when I drag it, it will automatically repeat the design so that I can drag it to make exactly the size of graphic I want. I can also make it just as tall as I want. Once you've got a platform that looks like what you would like, you can now just do one last step, which is to add a collider, which will make it so that when you have a player on top, he doesn't just fall right through. To do that, we're going to go over to our inspector. I'm just going to close up or minimize these other components which we don't need, hit add component, and if you start to type in collider, you'll get a list of all the colliders that are available. For a game like this, I find that the box collider 2D is the way to go, though you'll notice the size is off right off the bat. You can click edit collider and drag your edges until it fits your platform just the way you'd like it to. At this point, you have your first platform, and if there was a character in your game, you'd be able to stand on top of it. However, you probably are going to want more than one platform. So by going to your hierarchy, you can simply hit Command D to copy it. Grab your move tool to move it aside, and now we're creating platforms. Personally, I want to create some smaller ones, so I'm going to grab my rect tool here and resize a little bit. You'll notice though that when I did that, my collider stayed the same. I am going to need to edit that. From here, it's easy to just keep adding more tiles as you like until you've got your world set up roughly the way you'd like it to be. Now, this will help us to get some platforms, but you're probably going to want to make your game more interesting than that. One way to do that is by adding some variety of tiles. So for example, I could now add in my grass tiles on top and essentially make them work the exact same way by adding some tiling and colliders to make them look a little more visually appealing. Now I also have the option to add some more graphics here. So I've created these different houses in Photoshop, which I'm now going to import to my game. So I could take my in here, drag it up into the hierarchy. You'll notice that it is monstrous. It's a lot larger than the other graphics I've created. I can simply scale that down in the inspector by using the transform. For now, let's start by cutting it in half. So I'm going to cut all of my axes 2.5. And you'll notice that it's getting a lot better, but it's still pretty monstrous. So let's try 0.2. There we go. That's looking a little better. I can now zoom in a bit and using my move tool, get that up on the platform. And I can add more houses and that sort of thing. Next step is going to be to add a background. Now you can craft your own custom background in Photoshop, or simply by clicking on your hierarchy, you can create a new object. 2D object, sprite, and I'm going to make mine a square. Now to start off, you'll just get a little white square. Let's begin by making this nice and large so that it takes up all of the background of what I've built so far. Now, at the moment, it's going to cover everything you've created before. I'm going to change the order in layer to -1. That'll set it behind the other graphics I've done. Next thing I'm going to do is change my color, which is quite simple. You just click on the white color bar here and then find a color that you like. All right, already my game is looking much more interesting. Now, a sprite-based method is not the only way to create platforms and backgrounds and that sort of thing for in your game. It's just the way that I find the easiest when you're starting out, and to be honest, I like it best for this type of game. That said, if you're interested in using a tile map where you actually paint tiles and then import them into Unity and then paint them on the screen in order to create your world, then you can check out my tutorial on 2D RPG tile maps to find more information about that style. And that wraps up this tutorial. Take a moment now and try this out for yourself.